Okay guys, this is about doing the finishing and how I go about it. Some of the tools I use are obviously various bits and these nylon little wheels here. You can get them on the internet. They're not too terribly expensive. I'll put some sourcing on the document for this. But yeah, as you can see, it's various bits that I have. I also use these fine detail sander sticks. These work pretty good for getting into some of the tight spots. Not a lot of removal on these as a general rule, so you don't have to have some real heavy duty stuff. I also use abrasive cords like this one here. It's basically like a piece of string that has abrasive on it. It's nice to getting into some of the real nicks and crannies. Obviously my Dremel tool, that's used a lot with various ends and brushes and stuff like that. So that's about what I use to clean these up and do the finishing. As far as the finish itself, I use a polyurethane or a lacquer, and basically what I do is I leave this block on here until I'm almost done, and then I'll finally cut it off because I use the block as a holder. And when I go to do my finishing, what I do is I just dip it in the can, take it back out, and let it dry. I found that that's just as good a way as any to do it. I mean, obviously you're going to do what you do. Another thing that I also use is various little brushes too. So one of the things that I do first is I'll come in and, you know, just kind of get the loose stuff that I can off. As a general rule, these come out pretty good off the machine. Really, I'll tell you the honest to God truth, the only things that you're really going to concentrate on are where these seams are. And they're not too terrible. On this one here, it's got a big goober on it, but as a general rule, they're not too bad. And they come out pretty good. There's not a whole lot of sanding to be done on them. So, you know, I take the wire brush and I do that. The first thing I'm going to concentrate on is this area right here, and the reason being is there's a pretty good sized chunk on there, and I was real careful to cut it off on the bandsaw, for I found that these areas here sometimes are fragile depending on how tight the grain is. So I like to be very, very careful there. So what I'll do is I'll take my Dremel tool, and I've got this really small saw, and it works really good for this kind of stuff because it takes the debris off pretty quickly, and it's small enough to where it doesn't really tear into it too much. So I'll just come in here and, you know, just take it out of there and just work at it very carefully. And I don't like to take a lot off at any particular time. But this does a nice job of removing a lot of debris in a pretty quick manner without being too terribly aggressive. And I think that's about all I'm going to use that for. So I got most of that out of there. Now the next thing I usually do is after I'm done with something like that, I take this wire brush here and wire brush everything. And the reason for that is if there's any loose debris, It gets it out, and then I get a better feel of what I'm looking at. So I'll just basically come in here and you know, do a job of just basically cleaning things up. And like I said on this one here, there's hardly anything to clean up. Now, like where these little horns are, be careful for the very fact this can catch, and if it does, it's liable to give you, break them off. So, you know, you got to go at this with a little bit of delicacy and kindness. Okay, when I'm done with that, and I'm satisfied with the way it looks, then I sometimes go to these really fine diamond bits, and this one happens to be like a round one. And what I usually use these for is cleaning up this seam. And basically what I do is just very gently go at it until I get it where I'm happy with the way it looks. Same thing on this side. All I'm trying to do is clean it up. Okay, after I'm satisfied with what I've done with this tool, I go on to the next thing, next tool. Which is one of these nylon wheel brush wheels. And these are almost of the same consistency like Scotch-Brites, but they're on these little turn things. And basically what I do is just try to smooth things out the best I can. What's nice about these is that these won't really destroy any detail. They're pretty gentle on the detail stuff. I'm pretty satisfied with that. Now it's time to dunk it in the polyurethane. So it's the next step, and all I do is go blink into the polyurethane. So that's about it. Glad you watched. Hope this helps.